Hello everyone, welcome to the virtual retreat. This is the class on the modern quilt. You asked for something different. You wanted us to know what a modern quilt would entail. So I'm going to do my best to try and help us all understand what is a modern quilt. To me, a modern quilt is really just something different. When you look at it hanging on the wall, you think to yourself, wow, that's a little bit different. So over my shoulder here is my version of a modern quilt. Really, it's just a lot of clean lines, bright popping colors. They don't necessarily have to be bright and popping, but I'm going to do one similar to this, only I'm going to do it in tones instead of colors. I'm going to use blacks and whites and even throw in a pop of red because I love to do that. I think that is just so much fun. Okay, so let's get started because I have to try and nail this down to about 30 minutes. And if anybody knows me, you know I am not short-winded. I may not like being in front of the camera, but I can definitely talk. Okay. So first, let me tell you a little bit about why I chose this. This is Leaves Galore Templates by Sue Pelland. And this is the book that I use to first kind of get accustomed to and acquainted with these templates, okay? So here they are. There are three of them, three different ones. I mostly use the Grande a lot, and I did use the Norm and the Petite just a little bit. But all three of them were very, very valuable for this, and I so enjoyed using them. Okay, so I got this. I got my book. There are a few other things you're going to need. For fabric, you're going to need a half a yard of white or black, just depending upon what you want your background to be. You're going to use a fat quarter of 4 or 5 other tones or colors. On this one, as you see here, I have 4 colors right here, and then I use them into the background as well. So 4 or 5 tones or colors, whichever you prefer. Next, we're going to need gray or matching thread. I know some people like to use the same color thread for everything they're stitching into. Me, I find one that will kind of go with everything, and that's what I go with. The less work I have to do, the better. All right, got your Leaves Galore rulers, your rotary cutter. Okay, so for this little fun thing right here, because this is such a quick turn right through here, you want to use the 28 millimeter. Now you can use your 45, but the 28 would be a lot easier because it'll go around those curves a little simpler. Now they do make a 14, which is a lot smaller, but the blade is so tiny that it wears out very, very quickly. So this one is kind of a nice alternative. So I don't know if you can see what that is, well, but I'll put it on the table in a minute. I try to make sure I always have some extra blades just in case, because again, you can go through them really quickly with the smaller blades. It's kind of like the 9-volt versus the AAA in batteries. They're a lot smaller, the AAAs, and so you go through them a lot faster. The 9-volts are a lot bigger, you'll use them a lot less, or the D size. So just kind of like a comparison there to kind of give you an idea. Okay. The other thing I did was I really wanted to kind of get a good feel for what the modern quilt looked like according to other people. So I went on Amazon and found this book. I actually really like it. Modern Art Quilts by Sue Blyweis. Blyweis. You know, sometimes that can be a little hard. Anyway, so I found a couple patterns in here that I absolutely adored. The first one being the one that we are working on here. And the second one being, I kind of adapted it a little bit, kind of like the moon's over Saturn or something like that. So I did actually do some of these and cut them out on my go, which I will be showing you my go here in a little bit. But what I was really going for was this right here. And this was so much fun. And these templates made it so easy to do. All right, so let's get this out of the way, get this out of the way. Now, what else do we need? So we need a backing fabric. It can be anything you want. I would really like to, hopefully by the end of this, I'll have it done, but I would like to do a second one in a dark background. So one in a white background, one in a dark background, and put one on one side, one on the other, stitch it down, and voila. All right, so for your batting, she doesn't normally recommend using regular batting. What was recommended in the book I read was actually just a fleece batting. that you can buy at any one of your crafters. I'm sure Miss Jerry can get a hold of it, but it's really just kind of thin, and it's not going to be, you know, used a lot unless you use it for a blanket, quilt, bed topper, whatever. Then you might want to go into a different kind of batting. But for a wall mount design, just this thin fleece style batting is perfect, and it's really has a different feel from actual fleece. So, but you can find that in the not the batting section, the interfacing section. Yes, that's where I found that. Okay, get that out of the way. When you get your fabrics, it's steam seam. Yeah, we need to talk. Okay, when you get your fat quarters, you're going to want to basically cut them in half, because you only need about this much fabric of each color to do the one side. Now I've done two, because I'm gonna, like I said, I'm gonna try and do flip side, kind of like, you know, night and day kind of thing. So we'll see how that goes. We may or may not get that far. All right, so let's get this out of the way. And then the other thing you are going to need, if you're going to be doing fusible, now what I'm going to be showing you today is how to do it in the curved, how to actually stitch the curve. And I know a lot of you don't like the curve, and I understand it. There's huge explanations in the books about how to use the fusibles, how to use those instead of doing the, you know, clipping and sewing the curves. But today, for today's sake, we are going to be doing clipping and a little bit of the fusing. Okay, so what I had available, and I looked all over for the Misty Fuse, and I'm really excited. I want to use it, but I just had a hard time finding what I needed, because not only do you need Misty Fuse, but you also have to have the little pressing sheets too, because it doesn't come like this, where it's on the inside in between two pieces of paper. It's a piece of weave, and you lay it down. It's like, you know, as thin as a spider web. You lay it down on top of the fabric, you put your pressing cloth on it, and it's a whole other thing that I just haven't gotten into yet, and for this I didn't want to get too far into it. So this is actually Steam Seam 2. It's actually really quite thin, not as thin as the Misty Fuse, but it is thin, and it does come between two pieces. So when you're taking it off, you're going to use this piece up, and this piece comes right off. You're going to pull it off, iron it down, and then you can start cutting. I cut the Steam Seam 2 to the size that I want it to be on there, maybe just a little bit larger. Cut it, iron it on the fabric with lots of fabric extra around it, because you don't want to get the stuff on your ironing board. I already have. Guess what? It doesn't like to come off. So learn from my mistakes. So you're going to have plenty of extra fabric around it, so that when you're ironing it down onto the fabric, it's all the way, has a border all the way around it. Okay, that's the big thing. All right. Ta-da. All right, so I got that out of the way. I will have a full list to Miss Jerry, and I'm sure she'll either have it at the end of the video, the beginning of the video, or as an attachment. I don't know, but I will have it to her. Okay, so let's get started. I actually have found my pause button on here, so I'm going to pause it right about now and come back in just a second, and we're going to start working. Okay, so what we currently have right in front of us right now, these are all the colors. Here's my background right here, and here are my 5 other tones. I have 3 grays, a red, and a black, and I'm trying to decide, do I like it like this? And I'm thinking, no, not really. I want the red where it's going to pop. So let's rearrange it just a little bit. And this is really the only place we need to make any major decisions at this point, is just where do we want it? And I'm just not sure if I'm feeling the really light gray, so we may even take it out. So what do you think, huh? This is a new webcam that has the autofocus on it, and I'm not sure if I like it. I think I like the ones that are fixed focus. I actually like the ones where I can manually focus it, so that I have the distance from here to here, because every time I move my hands, it's going to go in and out. And by the way, I apologize, I meant to take my fingernail polish off and forgot. No biggie, right? Okay, so background, this is the first layer, second, third, fourth, and fifth. And you know, I think I can live with this. I think I like this. with my red right there, and then my black. So let's go ahead and go with this. So we're going to take these layers off, leaving them so that we can see them. We're going to move them out of the way. Oh, and while I'm at it, there's also this really cool set that she also makes, the Sue Pellin. She also makes these, and I'm probably pronouncing this wrong, but she also makes these. These are heart templates, and they are so cool. There are so many things that you can do with these templates that you can't even imagine. I went through the book, and the book was just about doing the leaves galore, which are the big ones that I showed you, and it was just amazing. Okay, so we're going to come here. And unfortunately, my camera isn't quite wide enough to show you, so this is kind of what we have. So this part's going to be my background, like what's behind me, and this part is going to be part of the foreground. Okay, so this is the last layer of the foreground. So what we're going to do is now we're going to line up oh my goodness. I have the dropsies like all day. All day, all week, all everything. All right, so I'm going to kind of move this a little bit because I'm off my cutting mat. So here's the gist. You want to try to keep your template. Don't go too crazy. Don't go too far this way because what's going to happen is you're going to cut yourself short from being able to use the other colors, and you want to make sure you can really get in there. Now you can also flip it this way and use these as well, use this side as well, and now you have nice little hills, and then you can go in and put some more in there, but we're just going to stick with this side for right now. Let me get this out of my way so I don't accidentally cut that. All right, we're going to line it up, and I'm going to tip it just slightly. All right, and maybe go a little bit more this way. Oh, and the size we're working with right now is basically a fat quarter. It's about 18 inches by 22 inches long. And that's, for me, that was just enough to kind of show and explain the demonstration. So we're going to lay this on top. These don't need to be even at the end. You can have it down more because you can make this as long as you want to. It's just whatever you put on the back, of course, has to be just as long. Okay, so let's put this on here. We're going to make our first cut. Cross my fingers here, see if I remember how I did this. And we're cutting both layers at the same time. Move your hand. Hopefully I'm not covering this up. And then I want to give it a little bit of a pull. Somewhere. I did not get it all. That's probably because I'm trying to go from the back side here. And I'm covering up my light, so it's hard to see. Okay, so we're going to take this piece off. And we're going to take this piece off. Now the very next thing we're going to do is we're going to line this back up just like this. And we're going to mark it because we want to see where the top of the curve and the bottom of the curve is. Using, that is not it. There it is. Using my Frisian marker. So what I like to do is use my ruler and find the center here, center here, and then my center over here, which is actually off the grid. So I'll just use it right there. And then we're going to mark the same spot across on the other side. And this is just going to help us to keep it lined up. Now when I was doing this, as I was experimenting with how to do this, I found that it was easier to mark them at the top and the bottom of the curve, or the top or the bottom of the valley, rather than trying to mark every one, because it didn't quite work that way. And some of you are probably really, really smart and know that, and I'm just one of those people that just learn as I go. All right, let's get that out of the way because we no longer need that. So when doing curves, I find the easiest way to do this is to clip these outside curves right here, clip them right here, but not here, and then come back and clip in here and here. So give me just a minute, I'll be right back, and we will see if I managed it. Okay, so I have all my clipping done on this one curve. Let's see if you can see it real well. All right, and it's just on the curve part. So basically, if you pulled it out, you would pull it straight, okay? So the very next thing we're going to do is we are going to flip it over and then start pinning. One of the things I noticed is if I started from the center of one of the curves and started pinning, it made it a whole lot easier. So just keep following around, and it's okay to do just really small little sections. Give it a little pull, and yes, I definitely pin myself a lot. Give it a little pull. All right, so I'm going to pause it again. I'm going to get all these pinned and I'll be right back. Alrighty, here it is. I have it all pinned. All the snips are pinned. I started from the center, worked my way out instead of working from the one edge and working to the other edge. So here it is. And the very next thing we're going to do is we're going to stitch it and then iron it. And I'm going to pause you one more time and we'll be right back. All right, so I've got this lined up. And we are just going to, I'm using a contrasting thread only so you can see what I'm doing here, hopefully. Yes, I am notorious for running over my needles, and I can honestly tell you I have definitely broken a few pins. I have broken a few of everything. So you want to stop every once in a while and just kind of straighten out, go underneath and straighten out your fabric and just make sure it's running along those, you know, not stitching over the top of other materials. See how it's bunching up right there? So you want to make sure you get that out of the way. Just as you go along, just start pulling the fabric out of the way. And if you do a long stitch, oh, there goes another one. I'm telling you, I have the dropsies. If you're doing a long stitch, then you're more likely to avoid running over the top of your needles, your pins. So I would definitely recommend that. All right, so I'm going to finish this up and then come right back and we're going to do the next piece. Alrighty, as you can see, we are back. We have our curve piece all done, and it actually went very, very smoothly. When I iron it, I generally go underneath, and as I'm ironing, I'm pulling it underneath, and in this case, going to the gray side because it's so much darker. And it actually worked out really well, and I use my favorite spray, which is the flatter. I like the flatter. It gives me a nice smooth seam without some of that bulkiness. Now if I need it to be very stiff, then I just go ahead and use the Best Press, Ellen's Best Press, and that's the other one I like. And I try to get them without scents because to me those things are so strong. And the good thing is you can get them without scents. All right, so let's go ahead and do our next piece. Now if you've ever had fat quarters before, you know that the fat quarters sometimes do not quite go all the way to 18, or they'll give you extra. So your edges are going to be kind of a little bit wonked out. So now I'm going to take, and I can still see where my curve is, and I'm going to look at it and decide if I want to just kind of change it up, cut into the curve here. No, not yet. I want to keep it just a little bit kind of cool here. So I've got my nice curve here, as you can see underneath. I got this cool curve going on here, and it still follows all the way there. I was going to use my other one and the norm one and make it a little bit shorter, but it actually kind of didn't put a lot of red in there, and I really want some red in there. So here's what we're going to do next. We've got this lined up. I like it right where it's at. I'm going to grab my rotary cutter, which I moved all the way across the room for whatever reason, and I'm going to go ahead and cut because we're ready. Okay, And this time, let's see if I can get it all the way through. Apparently there's something very funny on the video my husband is watching. I love to hear him laugh. He is so full of laughter. Okay, well I just went a little bit off there, but that's okay. You know what? You can have little mistakes here and there. All right, so we're going to take this piece off. This is our next cut. We're going to match those pieces up. Put in our dots. Okay. Put my curve back in here. Now as you see, I kind of messed up that one over there, but that's okay. There we go. All right, so find your center, which is going to be right here, and this one's way over here, so we're not going to worry about that. Just kind of put one there, and then the other center is over here. All right, and again, we're just looking for some place to match it up. Okay, and then this one here. All right, perfect. All right, give me 1 minute. I will have this pinned together and clipped, and I will come back and we'll start the next section. One thing I wanted to remind you, when you're clipping, you're not going even 1/4 of an inch all the way in. You're just going to clip just a little bit, just right into it, all the way around that curve, just till it starts to go to the up. Once it starts to go to the up, then you leave it alone. You don't have to do that one. And then on this one, we're going to do the same thing. We're just going to go in here on this curve and clip in. Can you see that? Am I far enough over? Clip in at just less than 1/4 of an inch, because you want to make sure that you can still put your seam in there and it not come through your seam. And you're going to clip all the way around that curve, just till it starts to go up, and then you can stop. All right, can give me 1 minute. I will be right back. All righty, here we have the red on. We have it ironed, looking really nice and smooth on those curves. I'm pretty pleased with it myself. This is probably only the 3rd time I've actually done something similar to this, or even close to it. So now we're going to lay the next one down, decide where we want it, and decide which way we want the pattern to go. So if we go like this, we can even take it and kind of turn it a little bit cockeyed so that maybe it'll come down more and come across some of the other ones. We may even cut off some of the red, and that would be okay, you know. And if at this point you want to turn it around and maybe put some mountains in, but I don't particularly care for that one, so I think I'll go back this way. And then the other option is you can still use the norm, because again, it will go across an 18-inch. So you can still get across there, or you can just put little small mountains in. I think I might do that for the light gray ones, but I think for this one, I'm going to stick with the grande, and I'm going to come up here and use all this space up here. So this might get a little bit long, so I just have to remember when I do my dark side that I want to make sure my dark side gets kind of long too. Otherwise I'm going to be snipping off some pieces I don't want to snip off. So I'm just going to take a peek at it and see if I've got it where I want it. And I might even turn this a little bit more this way. Not too much, because then you're going to start messing with your grain. All right. All right, I think I like where it's at. And we're going to cut, snip, and sew, and I will be right back. Okay, as a side note, when working with black, sometimes you don't have a pen that will show up on it. And so these charcoal liners are actually a really cool item for that, the clovers. So you can just kind of mark it here, here, and here. These are the halfway spots. So that's the 8th, 12, and then the 8 again, or whichever one that was. So now we're ready to clip, sew it on, and I'll be right back. Okay, we've got the next section on. So we've got dark, excuse me, dark gray, red, black, light gray, and then we have, sorry, one more section of really light gray to go on, and we're probably just going to finish it off down here, and then that will be our final step for this part. So hang in with me. I'm going to get this cut, probably cut it just a little bit different from the last couple, and we'll see how this is going to end up. All right, hang in there. Okay, so here's where we're at so far. And keep in mind that this can go in any direction. So a modern quilt is not necessarily, you know, following by the rules. You can kind of skew the rules here and there. And so that's where this one comes in handy, because you can do it. Y'all like my little overall thing. I need something with lots of pockets in it. I got my scissors over here on the side. I got my glasses right here so I don't get them lost, which I always lose them. Anyway, so this is, you know, this can go in any direction to be a modern quilt. And we're not done. I still have a little bit of extra that I want to add to it. So hang in there with me. Just got a little bit more to go. I was trying to get my tabletop camera to come up, but it's not coming up. I don't know why. So I may just bring it over and show it to you. All right, hang on. Okay, so for my very next step, for the very last piece, I've got my AccuQuilt cutter here. I got my little cutty thing that goes on top of it. All of a sudden, just can't remember the name of it. And I already have 3 pieces of prepared fabric that already have the, oh my gosh, just completely flew right on my head. Anyway, so the fusible on the back, and it's ready to go. Now, I do find that sometimes when I'm doing this, it doesn't come up very easily, and if you just give it a quick light heat, it will release from there. Now, these things are great. They will cut up to 6 layers, sometimes 8 layers. So with the fusible on the back, along with your pad, your cutting pad, you should be able to cut the whole thing. Now, I want to just check, because sometimes if you're not careful, these aren't lined up properly, and you wind up having just a piece of the image cut off. And so I just wanted to check and make sure it was all good. Okay, so we got these together, and I will be right back with the cut pieces, and then we can decide where to put them. Okay, we are back. I have them all cut. They say that you know, if you run your hands over it, I don't know, maybe it takes out the static. I'm not sure. I still wind up with static no matter what. So these pop right out, and you now have 3 of each color. Isn't that cool? I've even cut around some of these and used those as well, so it's up to you. But in the meantime, those are just going to go in the trash for now. So now I have 3 different sizes of 3 different circles, and we're going to figure out what to do with them. I may only use 3, I may make a combination, who knows. So let's go and get these off of here. Get this out of the way. Okay, so here's where you might run into a little bit of trouble, because the fusible on the back can get very, very thick if you try to do too much in one area. And what I like about these, they're just slightly sticky. So let's just play around with the big set. And let's see, if we were to do this and this, maybe turn it this way or this way. What do you think? Let's do that one, okay? And then we can take this one and this one, and do that. Now these aren't stuck on here yet. We can take these off and put these on however we want to. And then we're just going to put this one up here. What do you think? Just leave that one like that, or should we? Well, these are peeling off really good. I don't usually have this much luck. I'll put this like this one right here. What do you think? I think that's interesting. Let's go with that. Sometimes we can overthink a project, and that's my problem. I will definitely overthink a project. Okay, give me just a minute. We'll be right back. Alrighty, and there we have it. we have our applique pieces on, and what you would do is you could use a blanket stitch around the outside, or you can just make a stitch on the edge. I like to do that, especially if I'm using fusible. I'll just use a stitch that matches the color. I like that better. The fusible helps to keep that edge kind of clean, kind of crisp. Let me bring over the other one just so you can see it. So this one I did the same thing. I put the big circles on here, and then I actually just used the quilting to keep it in place. And these I just followed along, you know, kind of following the pattern. And what I was doing was I was going up and then coming back, going up and then coming back, and that didn't work out so well. So probably if you're going to do this, I would just go ahead and come down and then come down and then come down and keep going that way, because going the other way back and forth like that, it was shifting the fabric back and forth. So just a little tidbit of information. Let's see, it looks like we are at 31 minutes, and Jerry wanted me to keep it at about 30. See my cute pink flamingos? All right. So there you have it. I am going to get this finished up for you, and hopefully Jerry can post it on her site. I would like to do a light and a dark one, so when you flip it over, you'll have kind of the same thing, similar at least, on the back side. That's what I'm aiming for, so hopefully you will get to see it. Let me switch cameras here. Okay, so here we have it. This is our modern quilt for today. It can go in any direction. It's not limited, only limited by your imagination. We did some beautiful curved piecing here that actually will go very nicely. It was very, very easy, as long as you snipped into the curves and leave the up curves open. You don't cut those. And then it just makes a nice line for you to follow. And other than just making sure that you're keeping the fabric straight as you go into the needle, it was perfect. It was so easy. I can't believe how easy it was, because I know I've done the drunkard's path a few times and failed miserably. But as you do things and you do them more and more, you get better and better at it. Okay, so you're only as bad as you're ever going to be right now. If you keep practicing, you're only going to get better. Okay, if there are any questions, please feel free to comment in the comment section. Jerry or I will be happy to message you back and give you all the instruction you would like, or any help, or whatever it is. And of course, you should be able to get all of these parts pieces through Jerry, probably even down to the rotary cutter, the 28mm rotary cutter with the blades, extra blades if you need them. She carries the Best Press, loves that stuff. I do too. My little water misters, I can't live without these things. I have to have them. And then of course, fabrics, it only requires just fat quarters mostly. You're going to need a half a yard for the background, and you're going to need at least a half yard of the fleece interfacing. Gosh, it's getting late. The fleece interfacing, you're going to need at least a half a yard of that to go in between. You'll need something for the backing. Now with the half a yard of the whatever backing fabric you could use the other part of that for the backing as well. Or you could just create a whole new image to go on the back of it. Alrighty, thank you all very much. I have so thoroughly enjoyed this. This was all experience for me because I found the pause button, which means I was able to pause in between each one of the steps and then just start it up after I went ahead and completed it, which cut down on probably, I think I've been at this about 3, maybe 4 hours, along with a little bit of computer and a little bit of camera problems. And you didn't even know it, at least other than I wasn't able to go over to my Quilt cutter and show it to you because that camera just completely died. So I guess I'm going to have to replace that brand new camera that I just replaced. Anyways, well listen, I hope you guys are having fun. I know I am going to be having fun at the virtual retreat, and I will see you there. I'm sure I'll be at the comments, so please feel free to say hello. I would love to hear from you. All right, good night everybody, and God bless.